Afternoon. It's Thursday, August 13th, 2015, and it was a year ago today that Dad passed away. Reflecting back on the events that led up to that last year, I'd been in counseling about once a week, and from January all the way up until I couldn't go to counseling anymore, most of my conversations with Chris were about Dad dying. His kidney had finally failed out after 33, 34 years of being a transplant, and they installed a PICC line into his arm. He also had a catheter placed into his chest that they were doing dialysis from. Dad kept getting infections in his blood, and I'm looking at a picture of him when I look off to the side. What the infections did, they made him not mentally with it. He would be confused, and he'd be in a lot of pain, and his quality of life really started decreasing. His stays in the hospital would get longer. The time he was out of the hospital got shorter. And it was a real nightmare. Dad never made it to my graduation ceremony because he couldn't stand sitting. He had lost so much body fat that he's basically sitting on the bones right in his ass. And he couldn't take it, so he had to start laying down a lot. Because Dad started laying down a lot, all of his joints went septic and started swelling and started giving him immense pain. It was about at that time, after I graduated, that I went off to Buffalo. And in July, I had made peace with the fact that while I was out, Dad would probably die while I was out in Buffalo. And that's a hard realization to swallow. And every week, I got worse and worse news about Dad. They did a biopsy on one of his bones. They found that he had bone marrow cancer. He couldn't go through any type of treatment for it because he was on dialysis. And eventually, Dad just didn't want to do dialysis anymore. And I was set to come home. I was set to leave Buffalo early. And I called Dad, and he said, "Stay, just finish out the evangelistic series. You know, I'll hold on and I'll wait for you." So I stayed in Buffalo. I finished out the evangelistic series, and I drove home. I drove past the nursing home that he was staying at, and I couldn't go in to visit him because I was so tired and exhausted. I just went home and went to bed. I came home. I went to sleep. When I woke up, I went to the nursing home, and I just remember crying on his shoulder. I told him I was sorry. He said, "You don't have anything to be sorry for." He said, "Don't be sorry. You know, I just said sorry I've been gone and sorry I wasn't around." And he just laughed and he kissed me on my head because he couldn't move. And he said, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're here now. That's all that matters." I said, "Thanks." And I told him about Buffalo, and I caught up with him. I told him about meeting Lindsay in Canada. And he was pretty paralyzed at that point. He was very different just from when I had left him before. He couldn't move a lot because everything was swelling and in pain. And from his words, his skin felt like it was on fire. You really couldn't touch him on his body because it would hurt. So we would just kind of like hug his head or kiss him on the head. And if anybody knows Dad or remembers Dad, like, very affectionate, very, very hugs, very, very, very just like, loved interacting with people in a physical way. And he couldn't do that after a while. Over the course of the next week, he had 3 more dialysis appointments. And each dialysis appointment was just torture to him because he had to get people to move him, to pick him up, to set him down in his seats, to do all this other stuff, and it hurt to have people move him. It hurt for him to sit there for hours on hours, no matter how many pillows or how many foam pieces, how much we tried to give to him. It just hurt him. And eventually Dad said, I'm done with dialysis. He said, I'm done with everything. And we all understood, because Dad was a fighter, and Dad throughout my entire life worked hard. He never gave up on anything. He raised my brother and I. He's a wonderful man. And for everybody that compliments me on the things I do or the things and how I help people, that's all him, because he taught me to be like that. I remember I told Meenakshi that, just a heads up, when I hang out with people I hold doors, and it's not like I'm trying to assert a type of domination or be misogynistic. It's just how I was raised. You know, people can't handle how nice I can be sometimes because they think I have like an ulterior motive or I want something in return. And instead it's just like, nope, that's the way I was raised. You just do everything you can for somebody, because that's how you're supposed to treat each other. And Dad taught me that. And after Dad decided not to do dialysis, I called my doctor friends and I said, what comes next? And they told me, they said he's going to get sleepy, he's going to get really tired, and he's going to get harder and harder for him to stay awake. I said, okay. I remember one of the last conversations I had with Dad. He said, I'm so sick of being in pain. And I'm so sick of being in pain. He really hated where he was at the end. The 34 years of prednisone doesn't exactly leave your body in the best of conditions, you know? So every visit it was less interaction, every visit it was more sorry I'm tired, and I'm like, it's okay, you know, we know you're tired. Sleep's coming, don't worry. You know, we didn't try to keep him awake, we didn't try to force him, we just wanted him to be comfortable. And it was on August 12th, it was the last time I visited him. And he wasn't conscious anymore. His eyes would kind of like flash open for a second, and then he would close them again and just not move. And for me, that was all I needed. And I left the hospital that day and I said, Mom, I'm not coming back because I don't need to see Dad die. I don't need that nightmare of watching my best friend just go out like that, you know? There's no need for it. Like, I don't need that for any type of closure. We had a great relationship and there was nothing that was left unsaid. So I went home and I told my friends, I said, my dad's probably gonna die tomorrow. And Faust said he was sorry to hear that. And so we went and played video games online. He's a friend in Scotland. And I went to bed probably 2 in the morning like I normally do. Just always staying up late, and I was tired. Mom comes in the room at about 5 in the morning, and she said, I just got off the phone with your brother. Your dad's passed. And she started holding her stomach like she was going to be sick. And I said, come here, sit down. Because she was trying to sit down for a minute, okay? Just, he's not going anywhere. Trevor's not going to just sit down for a second and collect yourself. And after a few minutes, Mom got up. I posted on Facebook, Mom woke me up, Dad's dead. And I kind of smiled because his suffering and his pain was over. There's no more sensitive skin, there's no more swelling joints, there was no more existing in this horribly crippled body that had become his. So Mom got ready, I got ready, we were driving to the nursing home, and something really hard hit me on the way to the nursing home. There were people driving, there were people stopping off at the convenience stores, filling up on gas, there were people on the freeway. And I lost my best friend. And my world had finally been shattered by what I was afraid of since I was a kid. And no one cares. And no one knew. People were going to work. People were texting. As much as people posted things on Facebook and told me how sorry they were, at the same time I would see my news feed and the world kept spinning and the world kept going on. And it's a harsh reminder that time does keep moving forward. Living in Florida has been a nightmare for me. I'm away from my family, I'm away from home. My dad's not around. The only thing I have are pictures and various things that belong to him. But time keeps moving forward, and I have to move forward with it. So I moved to Key West a month after Dad died, because I have to start working, I have to go into ministry, and I have to keep going. And it's already a year later, and I don't feel like any time has changed. And partly it's because of where I am. The weather here is always the same. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's sunny, it's perfect. I'm living in paradise, hooray. But I'd give up everything just for another day with Dad. He was the person I could call on long trips and just talk for hours about anything. He was the guy that always had my back no matter what. He didn't understand why I was going to seminary. He didn't fully get the whole church thing, but he was damn fucking proud of me for doing it. He told me all the time, "I'm so proud of you, I'm so proud of you." I'm like, "I know, thanks." And there's this weird line in my life now of people who knew Dad and people who don't know Dad. And I'm a year into this new part of my life, and my best friend's not there. Well, my best friend gets to rest, and I'm envious because Dad goes to sleep. The next thing he sees is God and the second coming and the resurrection, and he's not in that pain anymore. I'm not going to edit this video. I'm not going to edit anything out. I might just add a music track to it. So I'm sorry for the excessive pauses in this video. But it's been a year. It's been a long, agonizing, painful year. But as Jameson says, each day I live is another day closer I get to see Dad. And the question of why do I be a pastor, why do I be a Christian, and sometimes the only thing I get to hang on to is, I have to do this to see Dad again. It's been 1 year. And I really hope I don't have to wait that much more.